Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait a few moments as folks continue to enter the room. We're looking forward to starting our presentation shortly. While we're waiting, feel free to write into the chat box where you're from, why you're here, if you just graduated, where you graduated from, where you're looking to start practice, or any types of questions that you have coming into this program. We'd love to see where you're from and what you're coming here with. All right. So I'm just going to start with a few announcements. My name is Amelia. I'm a staff member at the New York State chapter of NASW. And I'm really thrilled to be able to offer this program with our new and emerging workforce committee. So I'm going to ask today that while the presentation is going on, that you mute yourselves just to cut down on that background noise. Feel free to engage with us in the chat box, as well as use those reactions. If you have something, you hear something you like, if you have any questions, you can write those into the chat box. At the end, there will be a time that you can unmute yourself and we want to have a conversation. I'm also going to point out that there is a transcript, so that should be coming up on your screen right away. If you would like to see the full transcript, you just click the little caret and you should be able to click view full transcript on the right side of your screen. You can also choose to hide the subtitles or click and drag and drop the subtitles to anywhere on the screen that you would like. The last thing I want to mention is that this is not a CE program. We have many CEs available through the New York State chapter at NASW. We can throw in that schedule, but want to make sure that everyone knows that this program itself is not a CE program. So I'm going to hand it over to Afsha Malik, one of our co-chairs from the New and Emerging Workforce Committee.
Thank you, Amelia, for that introduction. And please let me know, I'm nervous that my Wi-Fi might give me some trouble, so please let me know if it does. So I just wanted to give a little introduction about the new committee. My name is Afsha Malik. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I co-chair the new committee that started actually this past December. And I started co-chairing with Natalie, who is also on this call. So for folks that might not know, the new committee stands for the New Emerging Workforce Committee. And basically we set out to support emerging social workers with resources, information, and access at defining points in their career. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a person that's graduating right now, but anyone that is emerging in the field or with a population focus that they have not had experience with. So now with that, with one of the events, we're happy to coordinate with Patricia from P.R.O.P.S Consulting to tell a little bit about, the interviewing and a lot of the different processes when it comes to, an emerging professional and things that folks can take away. So Patricia Chery-Simon is a licensed master social worker. She has been working in the field of developmental disabilities for over 14 years. Patricia currently works full-time at the New York State Office of People with Developmental Disabilities and part-time as a psychotherapist at Young Adult Institute. She recently completed a certification in certified alcohol and substance abuse counselor to advance her skills. Patricia has been able to assist families and individuals throughout New York City. She is passionate about the work she does and continues to find ways to help her community. In 2019, P.R.O.P.S Consulting was established to help early career professionals. Patricia has seen that many of her colleagues who recently graduated did not get the necessary tools to navigate the field. She noticed that in other human service professions, many struggled with interviewing process, advocating for necessity on the job, so she wanted to help others in advancing their career. Patricia holds a union steward position at the current job and enjoys advocating for the rights of members. She has been in that role for about 2.5 years. Patricia thanks her mother, husband, and son who supports and encourages her in her endeavors. She was the first to complete college and attend graduate school in her family. Patricia's family background is Haitian Cuban American. She speaks fluent Haitian Creole. During her leisure and hobby time, she attends church, writing poems, serving as a board member, volunteering for projects in Haiti, event planning, and babysitting her nieces and nephews. So with that, I'll pass it on to Patricia. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Again, I want to thank NSAW Merging Committee for allowing me to be here today. I really do appreciate it. And as you heard, I really want to support emerging social workers in the field because of my own experience, but as well as other colleagues and friends that I've worked with throughout the years, and noticed that they needed more support. And through supervision with supervisors and other within the different agencies that I worked with, I've built, resources and a way to advocate. So now I just want to share that information with you today. I thank all those who have joined us today again, friends, family. I really do appreciate you being here today and everyone. So we're going to start the presentation. So I'll be sharing my screen. So as was stated before, this is P.R.O.P.S Consulting Services, PLLC. It was established in 2019. The P.R.O.P.S means providing resources, opportunities, and planning services. And I am the presenter today, Patricia Chery-Simon. And the topic is, what are some tips I needed to know in the beginning of my journey? Many times that, you start a journey, you try to figure out like, what do I need? What are some things that I need to carry with me? What are some things I need to have? And what I found was that I had some tools, I had some things, but I didn't have it all. And throughout my journey, I learned some things that I needed to have that was not presented to me or, provided to me prior to me graduating. So again, today is an opportunity for us to discuss and also for me to give you some tips, some things that you're gonna need in your journey. So we are here to explore, empower, and help build new skills for the next generation. As you know, again, being new to the field, or if you've been in the field for a very long time, you're always looking to empower the next generation. It's important to do that because, again, they will be the one taking over when we've retired or, we've decided to go into something else. But we want to make sure that we're giving the next generation enough skills and empower them in order to, advocate and do for themselves. So I just wanted to give an organization chart on the people who've been working with me. Edith Fontaine, she's a nurse. She's a chief operations officer. She's actually my mom. Patricia Chery-Simon, the social worker. So I'm the chief executive officer. And then Caroline Simon, she's a teacher and she's my sister-in-law. And she's the chief financial officer. So we all have come with a background in different fields. As you can see, my mom is a nurse, I'm a social worker, and my sister is a teacher. And we wanted to come together to support the human service field. And this is the opportunity that was presented to us. And we, took it and said, you know what, let's build a business that would support our field. So social worker entry 1. So tips. So the T.I.P is actually abbreviations. So as we go along, you'll see the different tips that I'm going to give you. So tip number 1 is, how do I navigate the field? So career options. When we come into the field, it's like, what do I want to do as a social worker? At times we're able to kind of figure out like, okay, I already know what I'm going to do when I get out of school. And other times we're just kind of like not sure. Tip number 2, what do I need to know? So we're going to focus more on the interview process. I know a lot of times people go into interviews, they're not sure what to say, what to ask. It's kind of like, you think your resume is going to speak for you, but sometimes you have to also bring something to the table. So you'll see some things that we will discuss today. Tip number 3, what tools should I have in my toolbox? Building resources. It's important to build resources. And this is going to be more specifically about attaining certificates, advanced degrees, maybe even taking a course or two, just to sharpen your skill. Many times we think once we graduated with our bachelor's or master's degree, that's it. No, we need to constantly be utilizing the educational advancement in order to build our resources. And there's a lot of free things out there. So we'll talk about that. I'm also gonna give you some websites to check out where you can find these information. Tip number 4, what if I'm no longer satisfied with my role or current position? I want to terminate, so many times it's difficult, especially if you've been with a job for a very long time. You don't want to terminate, because terminating is actually not just terminating you and the provider or the employer, excuse me. You're also terminating with the people you're serving. So just being able to find a way to do it and still also show support to those families and individuals, because as social workers, we still have an obligation to our community, right? So it's important that we make sure when we're terminating that we do it in a way that it's helpful. All right, so we're gonna go to the next. So let's take a ride. So at this time, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to get your pens and paper ready. I really want you to come today and gather some information, some resources, so that you can take back to your jobs, to take back to your community, to really support what it is to be a social worker, because we advocate for our families, we advocate for our community, we advocate for our individuals, but it's time also to advocate for ourselves when we're out there. So tip number 1, take inventory of the possibilities. So as you can see, tip is take inventory and possibilities. How do I navigate the field? So there's several social work positions and career options. And probably right before you graduated, or maybe in the beginning of your school career, you started to look at, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? We typically see, and I may be wrong, but we typically see people go into school social worker, sometimes geriatric social worker, health social worker, case manager, which is, if you work for like administrative children services. So a lot of, and maybe teaching is also is a prevalent, like more prevalent position that social workers go into. But there's other things. So there's medical social worker, there's forensic social worker, there's court liaison, there's council member or public advocate. I've known people who've actually, after they got their master's or their licensing, they decided to go into public service. A military social worker, that is also an option. A lot of times people don't think about military social worker because they think, oh, you have to have some background in military. And that's not always necessarily true. They would prefer, but I believe more that you're coming from a mindset or information that you can actually bring more, maybe new things that they have not thought about. So military social workers, some people don't tend to go towards it because they think they need to have the background. Substance abuse social worker. So you have some people who go into that field and some people who don't. Case manager, as I stated before, that's the more prevalent. Consulting services. That's what I decided to go into as something right now, currently part-time, and hopefully in the future is going to be a little bit more full-time. Because consulting services, people think of it like more of, if you're consulting on homes or businesses or other things, but we also as social worker can consult other social workers. I remember when I was looking for someone to help me with my hours, it's very difficult to find people to help you with your hours when you have to go do your licensing, or even just in general, just to get feedback. I had good supervisors, so I can say that most of the supervisors that have supervised me have assisted me in my career, but a lot of times people don't have that opportunity. So someone who goes into a consulting services business, as I did, can support someone who may not have that support outside. Again, it will be all confidential, and just making sure that you and the person match, because again, with supervisors, you kind of have no choice. You just kind of go with the flow. But with the consulting services, you get to choose. So you're paying your bucks, you're paying your money to have this person supervise you. So there's a little bit more leniency. State and city level positions. A lot of times people don't look into social work in the state and city level positions. So when I say that, I'm talking about working for OMH, which is Office of Mental Health, OPWD, which is where I'm at, Office of People with Developmental Disabilities. You also have Office of Children, Family, OCFS, Office of Children and Family Services. So a lot of time people don't think of those positions because again, it's a lot of times people like they don't pay much, so they don't go into that field, but you can kind of work something out with once you get to the state and city level, and you're constantly moving in different roles. So depending on what you want to do when you get there, your licensing will always carry you through. So these are just some career options. And if you want me to go into any other ones more in detail, I can. But these are some positions that I felt like I didn't hear much about. And I'm actually going to touch on teaching, adjunct professor. I remember I was doing my internship at a college, and a lot of times people won't think about, oh, I want to be an adjunct professor, you know. And I think going into teaching is another way to support newly and emerging social workers. So a lot of the professors that I've encountered have definitely gone into this role, and then they move into being more permanent and having tenure. But definitely teaching is also another option for you when you're thinking about career options. All right, I just want to make sure I'm not going too fast. Are there any questions so far in the chat that may need to be addressed at this time? If not, I'll just move along.
No questions right now.
Okay, great. All right. Right, so keep your options open. So what that means is you could be at a job. I'm not saying to get up and leave a job tomorrow, but keep your options open. Always constantly, because again, you're gaining skills throughout your career. When you're while you're getting your education, you're getting your information, you're gaining skills. So now this is also an opportunity for you to keep your options open. Like you started a job maybe as a case manager, you know, and you're like, you know what, this may not be what I want to do. Try to see what else is out there. Try to find out what other skills are needed to get that job. So just keep your options open. So we're gonna go more into that. So tip number 2, think of immediate problems you can fix. You're like, what do you mean think of an immediate problem? When we go to a job, you know, the job is already established, the agency is already established. So in your mind, it's like, I'm going to get this licensed social worker position, and these are the job description, and this is what I need to be doing. But think about what you can do at the agency that they may not even thought about. That's how you get into the door. So number 1, be prepared by looking up the agency prior to the interview. I know I've done interviewing when I was a supervisor, and many times I would ask, the first question is like, what is the agency mission, visions, and value? And the person would sit there and be like, I don't know. Well, that is something you should know, because that tells the employer that you're interested, that you looked into what they're doing, and how can you become someone who can support that agency. Because again, every person that walks through the door has probably a great resume, has great information, and may be able to talk through an interview, but you don't know the mission, visions, and values of that agency or that corporation or that whatever it is that you decide to go into. So just being able to do that. Number 2, resume. Make sure your resume is relevant skills and information. I usually tell people don't delete anything because it's not really helpful. What you need to do is make sure that you're not putting so many skills under one area that is not pertaining to the job you're looking at. So say you're looking for a school social worker, but you did customer service, and this is just an example, in Burger King. You can use that Burger King experience and utilize the customer service portion of it and say, how did that customer service skill is now going to be implemented in the position that you're going into as a school social worker. So for example, you can say, you know, I've been able to have, you know, people skills, been able to coordinate and help and support, you know, there was an issue that came up with a customer and I was able to support the manager in getting the refund. So that's a way for you, even if it's on your resume, but now when you're in the interview process, you can kind of explain how that skill that you just stated will benefit in that school social work position or whatever position that you're going to. So just make sure it's more about your skills than it is about the title of your position. So just making sure that your skills are relevant to the job that you're searching for. Number 3, what skills do you already have that can fix an immediate problem? So if you went on their website and you notice that they don't have, so I'm sticking with school social work right now, they don't have a girls group. But you see that the school demographic has 75% girls, right? So at that time, you can go into the interview. Oh, just wanted to know. And again, you're posing questions. You're saying, you know, do you have a girls group? Do you have something that can support the girls in the school? Oh, no, we don't. Oh, maybe we can have a girls group for them, or, you know, or something. And in the girls group, you can, again, take it and stretch it. You could say it's a girls group for exercise. It's a girls group to talk about sex. You know, it could be a girls group to talk about dealing with social interactions. It could be so many different ways that you can kind of take that girls group and but show that you're interested in fixing an immediate problem or immediate thing that the school doesn't have. Maybe there's a lack of, you know, so it may not be a problem, but it may be a lack of something. But using that opportunity to share that during your interview process. This again will put you at the front of the table. Number 4, do a community research on ongoing issues where the agency is at. This may be your new project and put you at the top of the pile. So community needs assessment. I've done this before when I was at my old job. I was able to find out like, what is it that, you know, is needed, and brought it to my supervisor, brought it to the director. We had a conversation and there were some projects that came out of it. I didn't lead it because I, you know, again, it wasn't for me to lead, but being that I was a social worker, I was able to just say, you know, these are some things that would help the community. And the community doesn't always have to be the whole. The community can be just within the agency. It could be just the parents. Maybe there's a group that a parent group that's needed that needs to address this specific topic. So being able to do that once you've either got into the job or even before you get into the job during the interview process. Number 5, bring questions to your interviewer. Time schedules, how would they assess you? So that means how would your evaluation? So many times when I ask this question during my interview, they would look at me and like, you know, you're the first person that asks this question. No one asks how they're going to be evaluated. I said, I want to know how I'm going to be evaluated. I'm going to be evaluated based on just my performance. I'm going to be evaluated based on this. I need to know because that helps me whether or not I have the skills to do this job. Because again, when you get a job offer, most of the time the description is not always what you're going to really be doing. So this is an opportunity for you to get a little bit more information about what am I actually going to be doing? Like, what am I going to be supporting? And what is it that you really want me to do? Are we working with numbers? Are we working with group? Or like, how can I make sure that whatever I'm going to bring to the table as far as an employee is going to be good for this position? Because again, you don't want to take a job just to take a job. You really want to take a job to make sure that it is you're getting something out of it, but also the people you're serving is also the first priority. Also ask about training opportunities. Again, sometimes it's free, sometimes you have to pay, and sometimes they are collaborating with schools now, which is great. Some jobs are working with different colleges, and also other training programs just to give you support. So asking that question during the interview process will help you, because now remember, if you're a bachelor's level, you haven't got your master's yet, this is an opportunity for you to now work on getting your master's. So now you're learning different skills, learning new things. And now when you go to your master level, you're doing your dissertation, your paperwork, your papers, you have some experience under your belt. So now you're able to, get through your master's degree. And then when you graduate from your master's, if you want to get a certification, if you want to go back, for those who want to go back for their PhD, at least you have some training opportunities to support you to get you through your personal growth. And also reimbursement. So sometimes some agencies do provide that, and it's okay, ask the question. If they don't, they don't, but it's always good just to ask. And then number 6, tell them your purpose. Some people are like, what do you mean? Like, I don't even know what I want to do yet. Tell them your purpose in the sense where, I want to come here and support. I just got out of school. I'm a social worker, whether you're licensed or not licensed, but I just want to come and support this community. I feel like I can come in and provide this. So you're going to list your skills, you're going to list your experiences, you're going to list your what things you've done, whether it's something you did with your family, like, so if, like, with my mom, she does a lot of missionary work. So she'll go to Haiti and do like clinical supervisions and also support nurses and doctors. So that, me being part of that and supporting her in that, I can bring that to my interview process. I can say, I've done this community work. I may not have something to put on my resume, but these are some skills that I gained from doing this. So just making sure that you tell them your purpose, because again, as social workers, we are here to support and provide information to families, to individuals. So when someone's interviewing, they want to see you, how passionate you are about it. If you come to the interview, you're like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. Yeah, this is something I saw in the posting. The interviewer is not going to feel like you are really truly interested in the role. So telling them your purpose is getting them to see you, and you stand out from others, because now they will remember you and like, oh yeah, that's the one that spoke to me about her doing the mission in Haiti. You know what, she might fit for this role that we're thinking about doing. And right there and then, now you get a call back and you're like, we wanted to hire you for this position, but because of something you said during the interview process, we're looking more for you to do this position. So again, this is your time to kind of shine. So talking and expressing yourself. The last thing, 7, is thank the interview person or person. So sometimes they do group interviews. Send an email within 24 hours or a card within a week. I don't know if that's old fashioned, but that's something I've been doing for years. Again, I haven't had that many positions, like meaning changing careers. My last position, I was there for close to 12 years. And then after that, the role that I'm in right now, I've been in 3 years. And then the position I'm in as a psychotherapist, I've been in that position for 4.5 years. So to me, in each of those roles, I made sure that I sent a thank you card or thank you email, just to let the person just remember you. Because they may have had your resume at the bottom of the pile, but you said that resume, you sent that email, and now they pull your paper out and like, you know what? Let's call that person back in. Let's do a second interview. Maybe there was something, maybe they were nervous that day, maybe there was something that was going on that they weren't able to express. So let me give them a moment. Let me give them a second chance to come back and participate in another interview, and maybe in a group interview, because maybe sometimes the one-on-one is not doesn't help. And again, it's based on the agency that you're applying for. I'm not saying this is always going to happen. The few times that I know that have happened, I've known people who've actually had second interviews because, you know, they were nervous that day or they were running late, but please don't run late on the interview. But if, you know, things come up, send an email, ask for, you know, grace period and so forth. But really and truly, when you're going to an interview, you must be prepared, and you must understand the employer is taking their time out and scheduling you to be there. So just making sure that you're there on time, prepared, and really interested about whether or not you want this job. Okay. All right. So any questions at this time? I'm just stopping in between each tip just to make sure.
I do have a question from Julie.
Yes.
Any tips if I didn't have a traditional clinical internship setting in school and applying for therapy or a clinical job interview?
Okay. I didn't have a traditional clinical internship either. Because the first one, well, let me rephrase that. So the first one position, I was in a college. So I really didn't get the clinical portion that I needed. The second internship that I did in my second year, it was a little bit more clinical because it was in a but I don't think it's going to affect her. So let me, I don't think it's going to affect her because I didn't have a lot of clinical hours when I left my second internship, and I was able to get my psychotherapist position. And again, I really think it was based on my interview and what I brought to the table and the experience that I had. I don't think it was based on me having clinical background. It was more that I came in, I was ready to learn. You always have to be ready to learn. When you come into an interview, don't come in with the I know it all. Sometimes you have to come in and say, you know what, I want to be here, and how can you help me be here? And also I'm willing to learn so that I can make sure that I get through. So even if you're applying for a clinical job, your interview is really where they will see whether or not they'll take you in. And they'll ask you some questions about clinical work. So do your studies as well. So I guess that's the answer to my question. I'm not sure if that was helpful, Julie.
And I also have from Deborah, what type of questions do they ask? And I don't know if Deborah, you can maybe expand on that a little. Like, what type of position are you thinking of for a clinical position? What type of questions are asked?
Okay, some questions that would be asked for clinical definitely would be your DSM-5 classifications. So depending on the job you're going on. So I remember I went to a position right prior to the one I have for the last 3 years, and they've asked me about serious mental illness, so SMI. I never worked with that population before, but they were asking me about, you know, bipolar disorder. They were asking me about schizophrenia and dual diagnosis. I had some idea, but again, they will ask you, how would you support this person in this environment? How would you be able to, you know, if the person is, you know, the questions that they'll ask is it will be based on how you would react in those situations, but also how would you be able to do a clinical impression? So that means, how would you do a diagnosis if you didn't have that much information on that person? So they did give me scenarios, vignettes during my interview. So what I would suggest is for you to get more familiar with your diagnosis, get familiar with, you know, vignettes, because again, a lot of vignettes are actually, you know, it comes from people who actually are, you know, have experienced these things. So just making sure that you have a little bit more background as far as education and studying on those things. So I hope that I was able to answer that, Deborah. Okay.
Deborah says thank you. Yes.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so I'm just gonna move along. All right, so never stop learning. So that's pretty much what all of this is about. Never stop learning, because there's going to be like Deborah's question was, what would they be asking you? So, well, these are some things that they would be asking you. What do you understand about diagnosis? What do you understand about dealing with families, individuals, suicide? There's different things, that questions that may come up. So it's always good to kind of keep learning, keep some things in your toolbox. You may not use it today, but it may come up down the line, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that topic, or I remember that that class that I took in regards to trauma. So I need this information right now. So you can kind of go back to it, or you can again go to a refresher course to keep yourself updated. And as you know, NSAW requires social workers every 3 years to do their CEs, to make sure that continuing education is part of your learning and your, every time that you have to update your licensing. For those who haven't got their licenses, that's something that, just to keep in mind. Okay, so tip number 3, trust in your potential. What tools should I have in my toolbox? Building resources. So you may start off in an entry-level position, but always continue to learn. Your skills might be the reason you get your next promotion, which I spoke about earlier when I was talking about the interview process. Look for advanced certificates, training programs. Some are free, some have a small fee. I always feel like you should always invest in yourself. So, taking out the opportunity to invest in yourself, even if it's a small fee, do it. It's important because, again, this will help you throughout your career. Take advantage of NSAW member chats like today. They didn't pay me to say this, so I'm just letting you know. College events, alumni events at your, where you are alumni. And that doesn't mean just your master's degree, even your bachelor's level. So if you went to school, try to connect. Nowadays you can connect through LinkedIn and Facebook and so forth. So just continue to network so that you can continue to build your resource. Because what I found is that sometimes your next boss is someone who was your schoolmate, like was sitting right next to you. You were both in your master's degree, and now they're your supervisor, or vice versa. You might be the one that's sitting in that chair doing the interview, and now you're interviewing someone that went to your college or went to your your master's degree or bachelor's degree. So it's always good to just continue to network. Track individual process. So self-inventory is important. Later on, I'm going to talk about self-inventory because I really feel like a lot of times we're so busy, like we're going day in, day out. We have family stuff going on. We have different things that we might be involved in, and we forget to do self-inventory. What are some things that I need to work on? What are some things I need to do? Maybe there's something that I need to work with as far as like my attitude or the way that I present myself or the way that I speak. So doing self-inventory, and it's also self-reflection. We use that term a lot in our field. So even doing that, just making sure that we are tracking our individual process. Like, are we overwhelmed? Are we burnt out? Do we need more support? Or do we need to pull back? Like I've learned within the last 2 years to say no, because Patricia would never say no. And some people on here know me, and I'm always the yes, ma'am. But I had to learn how to say no, and not no in any way to say I don't want to do it, but no meaning that I have to also make sure that I'm not stretching myself too much. So also that is also, taking care of you and doing self-inventory. So we talk about self-care a lot, so making sure that we do that. Stay connected with your professors, your field supervisors, your classmates. Again, that's very important. Like I said, this person might be the one that you might get you your next job, or it might be your supervisor or that person that's interviewing you. So just making sure that you connect and keep in touch with people. And again, it's as simple as just sending a text, sending an email. I have professors that I've been sending emails all the time, and they're like, oh, there goes Patricia again, and it's just to tell them, like, I'm doing okay. I really appreciate their support. I really appreciate everything they've instilled in me to help me meet and be where I'm at today. So just doing that. Collaborate with local community. So what I say with local community, it could be anything, like your local store, your corner store, like have a conversation with them. Could you help out with a school event that I'm doing, or something at my job? Can you donate? Because a lot of times a lot of corporations or organizations are looking for collaboration. So you might be that person that might be able to bring those two together. So build your resources. Get to know the people in your local community, your local stores, your pizza shop, your Dunkin' Donuts, or wherever it is that you go. Get to know those people, because you know what, they might be the one to help support a cause that you're working on. Because social workers, we're always working on a cause. We're always working on something. What's the next thing to support our community, to support our families, and to support the mission, visions, and values. So just making sure you do that. Councils, and when I talk about councils, I'm talking about like council, your local councilman. I'm talking about your council for your community. So community boards, just collaborating with them, having conversations, maybe visit once or twice. I'm not telling you you have to go to every single council or board meeting or so forth, but just try to get to know those people. Who are those key people that you can work with or in the future? PTA, so our parents, you may not be able to be the president, the treasurer, or whatever other roles that they have in PTA, but you could be just a member and just support where you can, because again, you're building that relationship, you're building that resource there, where later on that person that at the PTA might be the one that's going to come and support some event that you have in some way. So I always feel like community networking is very important. There's always a job out there for you to do. You need to tap into what you want to wake up doing. So do not settle. So when I say that, I'm saying there's something out there for everyone to do. As social workers, we can go in any avenue. We can go into the courts, we can go into the hospitals, we can go into schools, we can go into so many different avenues. So while we are, for those who are early in their career, who are mid-career, who are, are already 20 years in, or maybe retired, there's still a job out there for you to do. You just got to tap into that, as I said earlier, and you just have to find how can you come and build something new. I remember in a position that I was in, I told my supervisor, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I want to do something different. And she just looked at me as like, there's nothing else here to do. And then a couple of months later, something came up. There was a school social work position. And then I sat down with the executive director, had a conversation, and we created a position. And at that time, I was like, okay, they're creating a position for me, or is this a position that's going to be here forever? I wasn't sure. But at that time, I knew that I needed to make a change. So we had a conversation, whatever, and we moved into that. And then I moved into that role. And I was in that role for a very short period of time, because I was also trying to expand into, other skills and other things that I learned throughout the years. So I didn't stay in that position for long, but that doesn't change the fact that there was a position created, that there was an opportunity for something else to be provided. So this is just for you to know that, again, there's always a job out there for you to do. And sometimes that job may even be created. Okay, so we're gonna move on. How am I with time? All right. So don't ever get stuck where you're not happy. Because a lot of times people are at jobs, they're not happy at those jobs, and they're there and they're not performing. That doesn't help our families, it doesn't help our individuals, nor does it help the agency. So don't stay if you're not happy. Try to find something that you really enjoy doing. Try to find something that you can wake up in the morning and say, you know what? I want to do this. I enjoy doing this. Not all social worker jobs is like the best. And I know it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to find and navigate jobs, but don't stay where you're not happy, because what you're doing is not bringing a negative, negativity into the workplace. And it's best that you say, you know what, maybe I need to look into something else. And this is where we're going to go into termination. All right. So tip number 4, tap into a pause. And what I mean is literally a pause. You ever press the pause button? That means nothing is moving. Everything is standstill. What if I'm no longer satisfied with my role or current position? Go back to self-inventory. And that's what I talked about earlier. Do it yearly. That means every year you should be sitting back, pausing from everything that's going on, and do a self-inventory about your role, about what you're doing. Are you satisfied with your job? If you're not satisfied with your role, and I want to say job because I'm thinking more of role, because people are different roles of social work, because we're all social workers, you know, but just with different, you know, licensing and so forth and certification, but we're all in the same role as far as like social work. But go back and do self-inventory yearly. Make sure that this is what you want to do. This is where I want to stay. I want to work with kids. I want to work with adults. I want to work in substance abuse. I want to work you know, different avenue, health, geriatrics, so forth. Like, am I really satisfying this job, or am I just doing it because I get a paycheck at the end of the week? And if we have that attitude of I get a paycheck at the end of the week, we tend to not do as well, you know. And if you need something, you need to get more excited about the job, come up with things that can make you more excited in the job. So going back to the self-inventory, you have an opportunity to say, what can I do differently at the job? Maybe this day-to-day writing psychosocials, if that's what you do, or doing intake is not satisfying. What else at the job that you can do that can help with that, to satisfy that? Or maybe you just have to go, you know. Supervision time. Utilize this time to discuss growth when possible, come with an agenda, or ask to add something to an agenda, especially when it comes to your personal growth. A lot of times when people are not satisfied with the job, it's because they don't feel like they're going anywhere. They feel like they've kind of been stagnated in a role, and they are not, you know, as happy and joyful when you first get out of social work. Oh my gosh, I'm out of social work school. I got my new job. I'm doing this. I'm loving it. And then, like, you know, year 2, year 3, year 4, you know, you're kind of declining. Yeah, that's the time where you need to tap into your supervision time. That's the time for you to have a discussion with your supervisor and say, is there possible growth here? Or you can ask for, or you can say, you know, each week I want to work on something, and then they will add it as an agenda. So week by week, you and your supervisor are having a conversation about, oh, how are you doing with that personal growth? That should be part of your evaluation, but many times that kind of fall at the bottom, depending on your agency's evaluation forms and so forth. But I know that when I did supervision, my supervisor always had a personal growth for me. She always made sure that she checked in, see what was going on. What is it that I needed? What were some other supports that I required? As far as, like, she knew that my career was in social work. She knew that I was moving into this role. So she wanted to make sure that I had that on the agenda, along with everything else, you know. So just make sure you use that time, supervision time, to speak about your growth. Ask your supervisor if there are any opportunities in your agency. Take personal time. Do I need a mental health day? So sometimes if you're not satisfied with your role, maybe you're burned out, you know, maybe you need to take time off. Maybe you need to just kind of, you know, pause, like, come back. And it's okay. Everyone needs to take time, because with what we do, we're constantly, you know, helping and supporting families. We're constantly, you know, providing them with support, but sometimes we are not getting that support in the back end. So just making sure you do that. Know your worth. It's okay if you must leave a job. I tell people that all the time. A lot of times we stay at jobs because we're like, you know, I have to stay here. I need to stay here for this reason and so forth. But sometimes when you stay at a job, then now you've kind of diminished what your purpose is. So you're not doing what it is that you really love. You're just doing a job because it pays the bills. So again, just know your worth. It's okay if you must leave a job. Stay positive. That's very important, especially when you are deciding to leave. Because again, you don't never know what's on the other side, but what's on the other side may be what you need to get kicked back, like to get back on. This is why I went to social work school. This is why I'm paying all my loans. This is why I'm doing all of this, because I want to do this job. And I want to continue to be a social worker. I want to continue to support my community, individuals and families and so forth. So just staying positive in the process. Make sure you provide resignation in a timely manner. Don't burn your bridges. Anytime that you leave a job and you think you're like, oh, I'm just leaving the job and I don't care and I'm not going to give enough time notice, you know what? You might need that job in the future. It may not be the same people there, but you might need that job in the future. Now I know that jobs and employers are not supposed to say to the next employer, so if they're doing a reference, that they can't say, you know, this person wasn't good, or all they can say is this person has worked at this agency or so forth. But remember, people know people. So even though it may not be on the front end that they have a discussion about you, but someone on the back end is having a discussion. So your resume might go at the bottom of that pile because, and it shouldn't be like that, but we know that these things happen. But just make sure, provide a resignation in a timely manner and don't burn any bridges because you just never know. All right, so do I have any? I'm going to stop here. This is the last tip. So I just want to know if we have any other questions.
We do have a question. What if you are at a first position and they're the only reference? How do you ask for references or recommendations? And Marianne also said a good recommendation is gold, which is definitely true.
Yes. So if you're at your first position, again, it depends on how long you've been there. So if you've only been there for the first like 3 months, it's going to be hard to get references. Try to, you know, if you have coworkers that you have a good relationship with, you can ask them to do a reference for you, but you're going to always need that professional reference from your supervisor. So yes, that's difficult. Or what you can do, you can go to, so say if that's your first position, but you can ask, because it depends, because some jobs require a professional, and that professional can come from your field supervisor and not your employer. So again, oh, someone wrote it in. Okay, great. Amy, thank you. So you can use your field supervisor person and colleagues. So if you can't get it from your first position, your first job, then yes, definitely go to your field supervisor, because technically your field work it was like an employment. You actually were there providing services, providing support. So utilizing that is important. So yes. Thank you, Amy, for putting that in the chat. All right, so so some of the services that we provide at P.R.O.P.S consulting services is coaching, mentoring, one-on-one counseling sessions, group sessions, and networking events. Unfortunately, when we did establish in 2019, we did not get an opportunity to even launch some of these services because we started late 2019 into 2020, and then, as you know, COVID put a pause on everything. So, but we are looking to host in-person networking events and also online networking events, so that you can meet other social workers, you know, like-minded social workers, but also to just maybe you can have a conversation with someone and get a job, you know, just from that. So we're just trying to see different ways that we can support the community, especially social workers. Again, anyone in the human service field. So we are also looking at anyone who's a nurse, a teacher, in different fields, because we know all of us in some way, we're all a helping field. So we're always constantly, you know, supporting the community. So, all right.
I'm just gonna
so at this time, we're gonna share a survey link in the chat. So if you can complete the survey link, it would be appreciative, so that we can just get some more feedback on how we can support the community and how we can support the social work field.
I'm going to throw that in there so everyone can respond to it. And I also wanted to get in another question from Ruth. What is the best way to explain interviewing for a non-managerial job from a managerial position? So going from manager to non-manager position.
Okay. So you were a manager, but now you're going to a non-managerial position. Yeah. So it's like almost like you're okay. So just, I'm sorry. What I can say for that position. So I came from a supervisor position and went to now me being supervised. And when I sat in the interview process, and I'm just going back, that's why you see I'm kind of pausing in between. I pretty much said, they were like, oh, you were a supervisor. You had 8 years of supervising, students. I was supervising staff and running a whole program with over 60 children. And they're like, you're coming back to just like not being that. When you sit in the interview process, you just let them know, like at this time, you're looking for a role that it's more where you can be a support staff than to be in supervisory position. And it's not that you don't want to do it anymore. It's more that you're at the stage of your life where you want to be more a supportive staff. And it's okay to say that. I know a lot of people are like, what do you mean? You're going from, managerial position now to a non-managerial. But you can say, this is what I decided to do. I think at this time in my life, I need something that is I don't want to say less restrictive or less, but basically you just want to let them know that you had to make some changes in your life, and this required you to kind of step down for what you were doing before, because that's what I had to do. And there's a way that you can say it. I'm not really getting it out clearly right now, but basically just saying that, there's some life changes that happen, and at this time, that's what you're looking to be more, someone more hands-on, to be, more supportive position.
Awesome.
I hope that was able to help you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to encourage everyone again to fill out that survey and take a look at the P.R.O.P.S consulting site. I had the opportunity to meet with Patricia. We talked for over an hour, and she really is truly passionate about working with social workers and other mental health professionals on these topics and coaching folks on these topics. And so this is truly a place. Patricia knows many people. You can take advantage of those networking classes and networking events to meet folks in other areas. So I really want to encourage folks, when someone's passionate about this, particularly, in social work in the area that you are, it's great to make that connection. So this is someone that you can connect with when you're in your job search. So just want to ask if there's anything else, Patricia, that you'd like to say in closing.
At this time, that's it. This was just the opportunity to put any questions or comments in the chat. And then some references. So some things that actually helped me, and I'm going to make it short, is SmartBrief. SmartBrief also has an NSAW section. So if you have time, you can, go on there, read articles. I'm all about reading. I'm really old school when it comes to making sure that I gain a lot of information. So if you have time, if you're sitting on the train, on the bus, even if you're, driving, I think there's an audio that you can put on for it as well. Just go in and just check out SmartBrief. It has different topics, different areas. Some of the questions and some of the comments that were made today, you can find some responses of other people who are in the field who also has responded. Leadership Now is also a blog that you could check into. NSAW. Mind Tools is just if you need anything to just kind of at times where you just want something to just help you with oh, I forgot this word, or Mind Tool is a good thing to look into. And www.next.com is just they help you with jobs. So anything about job related interviewing process and so forth, there's information on there as well. And that's it. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Afsha and Natalie for helping setting this up. This is recorded. This will be sent out to everyone and posted to our chapter chats. Please always let us know if there's any topics on anything social work that you'd like to see NASW talking about. These chapter chats are really open to anything. So feel free to reach out if you want to lead one. If you want to suggest one, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you, everyone. And we hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.